Now, indirect talks aimed at reaching a final agreement on a U.S. peace plan to end the war in Gaza have begun in Egypt. Egyptian state-linked media reported that the first round of talks between Hamas and mediators concluded in a positive atmosphere. And according to the Al-Qahira News, which is affiliated with Egypt's intelligence services, negotiators are set to continue on Tuesday. Meanwhile, an Israeli delegation arrived in the resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh on Monday. The talks, which will see Egyptian and Qatari officials holding shuttle meetings with delegations from both Israel and Hamas separately. And these talks come on the second anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel on 7th of October 2023 that sparked the war. Al-Qahira News earlier said delegations were discussing preparing ground conditions for the release of detainees and prisoners. A Palestinian source close to Hamas leadership said the negotiations are to be difficult and complex and may last for several days. Hamas has said it agrees to the peace plan proposals in part, but has not responded to several key demands, including its disarmament and future role in Gaza. But U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters at the White House that Hamas was agreeing to things that are very important.
If certain things aren't met, we're not going to do it. But I think we're doing very well, and I think Hamas has been agreeing to things that are very important.
Now, Trump denied that he recently told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop being negative and take the win after Hamas accepted parts of Washington's proposal. Trump said it wasn't true, adding that Netanyahu has been very positive on the deal. Trump, whose envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner are expected to be in Egypt, has urged negotiators to move fast to end the war in Gaza, where Israeli strikes continue on Monday. And according to Gaza Civil Defense Agency, at least 7 Palestinians were killed in the latest Israeli airstrikes. And well, to discuss more, we are now being joined live by Mohammed Baharoun from Dubai. He is the Director General of the Dubai Public Policy Research and West Asia Analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.
Good morning, Ms. Kumar.
Well, of course, the talks seem to be somehow hopeful. And of course, if I have to ask you, what are the talking points or the main important points that will probably be discussed in the meetings between these indirect talks, as they're called?
Well, being indoor talks, I think everyone is being protective of what issues are resolved first and which issues are kept towards the end. But quite obviously, one of the main things that the Palestinians have been raising is to what extent can the U.S. and other regional allies make sure that the ceasefire continues and the war actually stops, to allow the reconstruction and salvage.
Right. And considering that, what kind of role do you think the regional countries are taking place, considering that Iran has not been directly involved in the talks, but there are countries like Turkey, there are countries like Qatar, they have been involved earlier, not just in the talks, but also in the conflict. We know the 12-day war Iran was at. What kind of roles are these regional countries playing?
Well, I think we right now have got a very good agreement among all of the different countries, not only the regional, but also the international. And I think this is one of those rare occasions where we see almost everyone is agreeing. Iran, I think, have bigger fish to fry at this point, but quite obviously, we have seen countries like Turkey, like Egypt, like Qatar, like Saudi Arabia, UAE, US, and the EU all seem to be aligned on giving diplomacy a chance. And I think if we're discussing this today after 2 years of wars, after almost 120 people between injured and casualties, a huge destruction in Gaza, a war that has been going on. One part of the war is one of the best equipped and battle-proven armies in the region. I think it redefines the extent of power. After 2 years, after all of that destruction, only diplomacy can provide us with a solution. And I think that's the saying lesson out of 2 years of the Gaza war.
And on that part also, I would like to ask you the topic of Hamas. We know that Hamas has been positive so far, but somehow they have not talked about disarmament. How is the West Asian region looking at what would be Hamas's role if a peace plan comes in, the future of Hamas?
I think we've had a previous glimpse of how this could be resolved. This was an outcome of a previous discussions in Russia and in Beijing. The idea that Hamas would be dissolved under or will join the PLO, and that would make Hamas as an entity, dismantled. People would join the PLO, would be part of a you say Palestinian Accord. The militant are going to be provided with some sort of a safe exit outside of Hamas. I think once there is a governing body that is trusted by all parties, then delivering the weapons is easy. Now, I have to say that we shouldn't forget that part of what causes a struggle, armed struggle, is this concept of occupation. And I think this is why both the regional actors, but also the US has now realized that having a political horizon towards a Palestinian state means an investment in statehood that is going to reduce the role of non-state actors, particularly the armed ones.
Absolutely. And also I would lastly, I would like an overview of how has the West Asian regions or Dubai and all these places looked at the peace plan so far. We know that the first time the plan came into with proposals, it was not accepted. As suddenly now we see that all the regions, they are like, now we need to take part in this. How is the West Asian region looking at this peace plan as a whole?
Well, the peace plan is not perfect, and I don't think we should be looking for a perfect peace plan. It's plausible. It can provide a minimum for a starting point, and I think we could take it up from there. The images of the destruction in Gaza should be a very saddening experience. We cannot solve this through weapons. Weapons has got us in this place in the first place. So I think even though a plan is imperfect, doesn't mean the plan is workable. End of the day, there will have to be compromises from both parties. And I think if we realize that diplomacy can have a role, can actually achieve results, then we will, even in imperfect plans that could lead us or leave us with areas of the original plans not fully implemented, is something that we can take and consider a win.
Absolutely. Of course, we'll be looking at how the talks do come by, and if we are, of course, hopeful for a positive outcome. Thank you so much, Mr. Baroun, for joining us on the show and giving your perspective. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your invitation.